Chapter 3, Section 4 is dividing fractions by fractions. And if you could do the last lesson we did, where we divided whole numbers by fractions, then this one here is going to be a piece of cake. The suggested pacing guide says this is a 90-minute lesson, and the course content objective says the students will divide fractions by fractions. Duh, it's in the title. All right, let's get on to our new lesson. Of course, you want to start off by writing down Chapter 3, Section 3, and divide fractions by fractions, because that is going to be part of your notes. Wood is one of the first materials crafted by humans. There are examples of woodworking in the ancient world in Egypt by the Greeks and the Romans, and in China. These ancient carpenters would make weapons for hunting and self-defense, tools for farming, objects for art, and structures for shelter. Today's carpenters work with wood to create anything from decks to furniture or even houses. They need to use precise measurements and careful planning to create products. And by the way, there's an old saying, when you're cutting wood, measure twice, cut once. Because if you only measure once, you're probably going to screw it up. Measure twice, cut once. Wood's too expensive to do anything else with. A carpenter has a wooden plate measuring 3/4 foot long. He will be using it to create a music box. The carpenter needs to cut the wood into pieces that have a length of 1/6 of a foot. In the context of this problem, what does 3/4 divided by 1/6 represent? If the quotient is a mixed number, what might that mean about the pieces that were cut from the plank? These are the questions we're going to answer in this lesson. You can use a visual model to represent division problems involving fractions, just like we used when we were dividing whole numbers by fractions. Here we've got a problem that says 1/2 divided by 1/3. You can see that the problem is laid out with a fraction bar up here showing it divided into two even sections, 1/2 of it shaded, and we're going to divide it into 1/3. Now that means that we're going to have to divide that entire fraction bar into 3 pieces. And you take those 3 pieces, each of them are 1/3 each, and from there the final thing we're going to have to do is look at what's shaded, and in the end we get 1/2 of another third. So the answer is actually going to be 1 whole and 1/2 of another whole third, or 1 1/2. And we're going to see this as we work through the fractions in other ways later on, proving it using the keep, change, flip. But this is a good visual representation of exactly what the problem's doing. Now you can also use an equation to solve division problems by fractions. To divide the fraction by a fraction, multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction, because multiplication and division are inverse operations. This is the same exact thing we did in yesterday's lessons, also known as keep, change, flip. Let's watch this video from the textbook to see how they say to do it.
To divide by a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal. To find 1/3 divided by 2/9, first multiply 1/3 by the reciprocal of 2/9, 9/2. Next, simplify by dividing out the common factor, 3. Then multiply the numerators. 1 times 3 equals 3. Finally, multiply the denominators. 1 times 2 equals 2. So 1/3 divided by 2/9 is 3/2, or 1 1/2.
Now you should note that they changed it to 1 1/2. At sixth grade levels where you guys are, you cannot leave it as an improper fraction. On the standardized test, if you do that, they will mark it wrong. And on my chapter test, if you do that, I will take points away as well. You always have to write your fractions in simplest form, and if necessary, as mixed numbers in simplest form. So let's keep our lesson going. Now they want us to divide 3/4 by 3/8. The quotient represents the number of groups of 3/8 that are in what number. The what number is, of course, going to be 3/4. Let's keep it going. first off, we're going to do the same problem using a model. So on the model, they have your bar diagram. It's cut into 4 pieces for the 3/4, and 3 of those 4 pieces are shaded right here. Now we've got to do eighths. So we're going to take that same bar diagram and we're going to cut it into eighths just like that. Of those eighths, how many are going to be shaded? 3. So we're going to keep it going from there. So we got divided into sections of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And check this out. We got a remainder. So what do you think the answer is? Well, we've got 2 entire groups of 3 with 2 left over. I'm thinking it's going to be 2 and 2/3. Let's go down here and say there are how many full groups? 2 groups of 3/8, and that part checks. And then of course there's also going to be 2/3 of a group left over. Now method 2 requires us to use the equation method. And the equation method works just like the last one we did. So why don't you pause the video and try and work on it? Now let's do this one together, because the last one they kind of showed us, I think. So let's do this one together as well. We're going to start off with a fraction, 3/4 divided by 3/8. We're going to take and keep the first number just as it is. So it's going to go down to become 3/4. We're going to change division and multiplication, and we're going to take the reciprocal of the second number, making it 8/3. Next, we're going to simplify. And there's a couple things that will simplify here. The 3's will simplify, and the 4 and the 8 will simplify. So when I go to my next thing, 3 went into 3 once, 3 went into 3 once, and then where I had the 4 and the 8, they did some strange things here. Those numbers should be a 4 and an 8 right there. I think they screwed something up, or where they're showing us weird. 4 went into 4 1 times, 4 went into 8 2 times. So I'm not sure where those numbers came from. Just pretend that's a 4 and that's an 8. And the last thing we're going to do is multiply your numerator times the numerator. 1 times 2 is, and the denominator times the denominator, 1 times 1. That's going to give you the final answer of 2/1, also known as 2. Now, that means that 3/4 divided by 3/8 is going to be 2. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't understand what I did wrong on my previous thing when I was looking at it. When we solved that problem, these 2 were not included in the shaded area, so we only had 2 full sections of the 3. So the final answer would actually be 2. There's nothing left over because those aren't shaded. I totally missed that. Now I should add, the textbook kind of overdid the showing the work thing, so I'm going to show you exactly how I would do it. I'm going to keep my first number, 3/4. I'm going to change division and multiplication, and I'm going to flip or take the reciprocal of the second number, making it 8/3. Next, I'm going to simplify. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once, 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 2 times. Excuse me. And finally, we're going to multiply. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and that leaves 2/1, also known as 2, for the final answer. This right here is showing your work. That is what I must see. If I see anything else on your homework, you will have done it just for, there you go, just for fun. Alright, now it's your turn to solve one. Problem's coming up here, and when it does, you pause the video and you solve this one and see if you can get the right answer. 6/7 divided by 4/5. Did you get it? Let's find out. 6 divided by 7, change division and multiplication, take the reciprocal of the second number. 5 divided by 4 is equal to. Now we're going to simplify. I can see my 6 and my 4 simplifies. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. That's all that's going to simplify here. 5 times 3, that's going to be 15. 7 times 2, that's going to be 14. That is an improper fraction. We can't have improper fractions, so we're going to come off to the side and put our first number in the house. 14 goes into 15 1 times. 1 times 14 is 14. 15 minus 14 is 1, so our answer is 1 and 1/14. come back over here to our problem, put it in here. We're going to type in a 1 and 1 over, it said over 14. So check our answer, and the answer checks well. Is that the one you got? I hope so. Now once again, I do need to emphasize that this right here is showing your work. That is what I must see. If I don't see that on each and every problem of this type from your homework, you've gonna done it just for fun. Let's keep moving here. So our next problem says Asahi is making cookies. There is 6 pounds of sugar left in the canister. Each batch of cookies requires 1/4 pound of sugar. He wants to deliver 1 batch of cookies to his neighbors. How many neighbors will receive cookies? So in other words, we have 6 pounds and we need to divide it into 1/4 pound sections. Well, I'm already going to tell you right off the top of my head, the answer to that is going to be 3. Because I figured it out in my head before I did any multiplication. But let's see if I'm right. I think I'm right. Do you think I'm right? The divisor is going to be the 1/4. That's what we're dividing it into. The dividend is what we're starting with. That's going to be your 5/6. So let's work our problem. I was right. You got 5/6 divided by 1/4. Now if you take a look at the problem here, wow, they just jumped way ahead here. 5/6 divided by 1/4 was the same thing as 5/6 times 4 over 1. Next they simplified. They said 2 went into 4 2 times and 2 went into 6 3 times. And they're going to multiply 5 times 2. That's going to be 10. 3 times 1. That's going to be 3. So that's going to become 10 over 3, which is going to be 3 and 1/3 left. So we're going to take 3 and 1 over 3 equals, and let's see if that part's right. Good, that part checked good. 10 over 3 simplified to be 3 and 1/3. Now the big question is, how many people are going to end up getting cookies? The answer is 3 of his neighbors, because that 1/3 of the flour that's left over is not going to be enough to make any cookies with. And that comes down to this part of the problem. Because Asahi wants to deliver whole batches of cookies, he's only going to be able to make 3 full batches of cookies delivered to his neighbors. Question: why does the quotient and the solution to the word problem differ? The quotient was 3 and 1/3, but you couldn't use that other 1/3 cup of flour. So that meant that the solution had to just be the 3, and that 1/3 of flour, we're going to save that for when Mama goes to the store and buys more flour so we can make more cookies. Now, once again, it is going to be your turn to solve the problem on your own. I want you to pause the video, work the problem, and answer the questions that are going with it. Look forward to seeing what you come up with. Andrew has 6 pounds of trail mix. He needs to divide the mix into bags that can hold 1/9 of a pound each. That's not much trail mix. Write and solve an equation to determine the number of bags of trail mix that can be made. So what he's doing is he's taking 5/6 of a pound and dividing it into 1/9 pound sections. From there, I'm going to take my problem that I've written. I'm going to keep my first number, 5 over 6, change division multiplication, and flip, otherwise known to take the reciprocal of the second number. Simplify, 3 goes into 6 2 times, 3 goes into 9 3 times, 5 times 3, that's going to become 15. 2 times 1, that's going to become 2. And when you simplify that down, it'll be 2 and 1/2 left over. So, I'm sorry, not 2 and 1/2. What am I thinking? It's going to be 8 and 1/2 left over. So, how many full bags can he get? I'm thinking that's going to be 8. First, let's put our answer in here. So, we're going to type in 8. Oh, I said we're going to type in 8 fraction 1 over 2. Hit that and accept. Ooh, wait a minute. What is wrong? What is wrong? Ugh, I spent more time talking than thinking. The correct answer is actually 7 and 1/2. Go back over here. 15 divided by 2, that's 7, not 8. That's what happens when I try and talk and think at the same time. But I bet I can get the next part of this problem right. How many full bags can he make? It's going to be 7, and that other half, that's just going to be left. Now it's going to be story writing time. You can write a story context or word problem to represent any division problem. You can then solve the problem using a model or an equation. For the expression 4/5 divided by 1/10, you can write a story context by describing each piece of the division problem. So here we have Nadia is hanging pictures in his room. He has 4/5 feet of tape to use, and he uses 1/10 foot of tape to hang each photo. How many photos can he hang on his wall? Well, the dividend is going to be 4/5. That's our first number. The divisor is going to be 1/10. That's our second number. So we have 4/5 divided by 1/10, and we have a nice little story problem to go with our question here. When we come back, I'm going to want you to pause and write your own story for this problem right here. We're going to end part 1 now, come back and work part 2 in just a moment. You go ahead and start working on your story problem while I get the video saved.